Love it or loathe it, it's that time of year when kids roam around and loose around neighbourhoods looking for fun and lollies. Halloween's grown in popularity in New Zealand, and many parents might be wondering about how to handle trick or treating. How young is too young to let kids venture out on their own or in a group? What if your kid wants to celebrate Halloween but it doesn't fit with your beliefs? And how much is too much candy before bed? Sheridan Ekatoni is a parent coach and presenter at Parenting Place, also a mum of 4. And I understand she is well versed in Halloween etiquette. Send in your questions, stories, experiences good and bad to us, 9to-rnz.co.nz, or text them to 2101. Kia ora, Sheridan.
Kia ora.
Are you a Halloween family?
Interesting question. We haven't been over the years, but just in the last couple of years, we have had our teenagers just dip their toe into the world of Halloween.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? And some people thoroughly embrace it and others don't. Before we get to the night itself, is that something to acknowledge, right? Not everybody is into this, and children need to understand, perhaps, if they are going to go out, that not every door is going to welcome you with lollies.
Yeah, look, I think it is a little bit of a polarizing topic often. We often have, some people have really strong beliefs around not celebrating Halloween and other people are more relaxed. And so I think it is important that whichever side we are on this, that we are navigating potential disappointment with our kids or a deepening of understanding around, in our family maybe in our family we don't enter in on Halloween celebrations. So I think that's our job as parents, just to really be clear and help them understand that fact.
In our family, we is a good one. And in contrasting that with the fact that, and this could apply to any number of things, that's not necessarily the case for other people, and we need to respect that too.
Absolutely, yeah. Front-footing, expectation on the night, front-footing that difference between what we do as a family and what others do. How can we be respectful in that? For the kids that are out, are we identifying those houses that don't have any decorations? We're probably not going to go and knock on their door, and that may be because they're not entering in on the festivities of Halloween.
Okay, what are some of your starting points for parents? Say the kids are really keen to do it and you say, okay, let's get on board. What are some of the things you need to think about in terms of age, whether they should be out on their own or in a group? What are some of the key issues?
Yeah, I think we do want to front foot doing this safely. And I think especially with our younger children, we are going to accompany them. We're going to have conversations around where we will go, where we won't go, staying together in a group, and that we will all go together. So I think when our children are younger, we're very much leading that. It might be that we've got a couple of parents that we go together in bigger groups, and we've got a bit of a strategy on how to keep them safe. And then I think as our kids grow, our teenagers will have more autonomy, and we may feel like we are confident they could do that on their own. But again, it's walking through expectation of how they will act, and also being a little bit careful that we feel like they are responsible enough to do that on their own. And that will look different for every family.
That is true. It also includes how you are going to conduct yourselves if you're knocking on the door, some of the basic courtesies, and as we said, understanding not everybody's into this. So there's a lot of, perhaps even a little bit of rehearsal that can happen, a bit of role play that can happen in advance, especially the first time.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, so at Parenting Place, we talk a lot about what would you do if conversations to have with our kids. So, what would you do if you knocked on the door and they opened the door and they asked you to come into the kitchen to get the lollies? So we really want to play out, a child's ability to go, no, thank you, I'll stand here. Or, almost, as you say, having a rehearse of what they might say if they get into a tricky situation. So what would you do if conversations in the lead up is a really good thing to do.
The other thing is planning a route. It might just be you're allowed to go up and down your street because you know everybody on that street. or maybe that street and the one after. So containing where it is they go, based on, your own confidence. That would be another matter. Don't just say, go off and we'll see you in 3 hours.
Absolutely. We want to plan it. I think, this is where a good Facebook community group is great. I've often seen it within my community that people are like, okay, where are the streets to go? And generally within a community, there's those streets that do a really good job. And I think as parents, so we need to do our homework first. We need to be sure that we are happy with where they're going to go. And I think it is fair to put a boundary in. We're not going to spend 3 hours out. It might be that we choose 2 or 3 streets that we know enter into the festivities, that we go and navigate that with them.
Another thing is who's in charge. This is always the case, whether it's an older kid or whether it's the parents, and you want that grapevine working. If there's several children from different families, who's contacting whom about where things are at, and just having that good reporting line sorted, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's interesting, isn't it? We do live in a slightly technical world now where often kids will have phones. So are we able to track where they are? Are we, there's safety in groups. I've been thinking a lot around the beauty of actually getting, especially our older teens, out with face-to-face interaction. And if we can do Halloween safely with some clear guidelines for our teens, the thing that I think is a good thing to think about is them being out together off devices and just kind of interacting in their community. And that can be some of the benefits of as they grow, as they gain autonomy, as we give them a little bit more freedom than we might have in the past. It's a big opportunity for them to grow in their autonomy.
Interestingly, though, I was just thinking one of the ways to keep in touch is to perhaps have the good old location sharing apps or the tracking features on there. Pretty sophisticated these days. The kids sometimes forget they're on, I think, and how much they're being tracked. So, one option or another. The other thing, I guess, is for those who might be disappointed, if it's something your family doesn't do. Some families might have religious beliefs or just think, no, this is just American imported stuff, we're not doing it. Could families do something else together that night, perhaps, to mitigate any disappointment?
Absolutely, because I do love that idea of gathering together. And it might be that if you're in your family, your value is to not be involved in Halloween. It is thinking about like-minded families you might invite over for a barbecue. I think often if we were to interview a whole bunch of kids right now, the joy of Halloween is really the free candy, isn't it? I mean, that's why my kids are out on the streets with their pumpkin bucket. And so can we create a little bit of a gathering? Maybe there are some treats after dinner. The other thing that I think is really good for families to know about is there's some beautiful community events. There's light parties. There's often, big picnics within a community. And so there are other options. So we don't have to go down that road if we don't want to, but it can just help us ease that tension that kids feel when everybody else they feel like is doing this thing and they don't get to.
The other thing is the lollies. Again, some safety rules. Make sure you've got some high-vis costumes or not one that's going to trip you up every 5 seconds. And don't take unwrapped lollies is one suggestion I've seen. Just take lollies that are wrapped. Just some sensible safety things again. I mean, that's a habit you've got to learn for life, is knowing what's happening to your drink or your lolly. So why not start innocently right at the beginning?
I love that. And I do think, again, it's, prepping them for conversations that you're going to have in different forms later down the track, as you say, when they're going out and they're a bit older, not receiving a drink that they haven't brought themselves. All of those things, they start with these little conversations along the way. It's interesting. I canvassed my 15-year-old around some of her top tips, and I thought it was very interesting. One of her biggest recommendations for parents to tell kids is actually 1 lolly per house, because she has noticed, kids just go and grab a handful of all the lollies, and in her mind she felt mortified for the people that in the houses that are providing the treats. And I thought that was a good thing that we might talk to our kids about, is just that limit when we go to the door.
Well, speaking of which, I think it's one of the questions that come in. How much is too much when it comes to those lollies? And this is another thing. A lot of parents trying to get their kids off lollies and sugar.
Yeah.
And can you have a rule around that as well? You can collect them all, but you're not going to eat them all on the night. Or is that unrealistic?
I actually am a bit of a believer in having some boundaries that teach delayed gratification. So it might be that, in the lead up, we're talking about, yes, we're going to get some treats, but when we get home, we're going to go through them, make sure they're all safe, and there'll be an amount that you can have tonight. But do you know what? We're going to save some. Or it might be that there's some younger siblings we might want to share with. Again, this is such a good opportunity in parenting to teach delayed gratification, that we don't just sit and gorge all of the lollies on the night. So it's just a beautiful teaching moment.
Or all the Easter eggs, for that matter. Or all the
exactly.
Christmas goodies. Of course, that we're all really good at obeying that ourselves, aren't we? The other interesting point is part of what can be fun about this, from my observations, is actually making the costumes or creating the character, or putting something in the window. It's not about the lollies and just getting stuff. That is where you can have some fun with it, and you don't even necessarily have to go far from home to enjoy that side of it.
Yeah, and so much creativity can come, and their ability to go out perhaps and have a little budget where they can get some things to create something. I think you're right. That is one of the more creative aspects of this holiday, that we get to dress up. And I know a lot of families that I speak to, that's actually the thing they love the most, is their ability to dress up for the night. So I think we can encourage our kids to be involved.
And kids do like a bit of scare, let's face it. One of the issues, though, how to help a child who may have felt overwhelmed or unsafe. It's all been a bit much. What do you do in this or any other instance where an event has just been a bit overwhelming for them?
Yeah, and I think this is a sort of a note for parents in general around this night, is there's going to be a mixture of absolute joy and excitement, but we will often be managing meltdowns, or maybe they're up later than they would normally be. So I think there's a couple of things to think about. It's almost going into it expecting that there's going to be these moments. I think when we're prepared as parents to kind of expect the meltdown, we do a little bit better than, perhaps going out thinking we've done this beautiful job of facilitating this night and then getting a bit frustrated when they have a meltdown. I think we can have a grab and run opportunity, that once the kids are really melting down, we're exiting stage left. So almost anticipate there will be moments and just being with them and helping them to calm down. Our presence is our best asset in that moment.
A question: we've tried to embrace Halloween, but the kids went crazy with Sugar Rush, staying out late, and had bad attitudes and behaviours for a week. Can you do Halloween without lollies, late nights, and all the drama?
Yeah. And again, for this family, it might be about really having some really good boundaries about how much sugar is being consumed. And we can have good conversations with our kids around what happens when we eat lots of sugar and what we might want to think about. So I think we can hold boundaries around it. We don't have to allow them to eat the entire pumpkin bucket full of lollies on the night.
One final one is an interesting point. We spend ages teaching kids not to accept sweets from strangers, not to go to a strange house, etc. And then in Halloween, you're encouraging the opposite.
Yeah.
Can it? I mean, that's a fair point, but equally, can it be a teaching moment about building that awareness of when something doesn't feel right, safety in groups? Yeah. Again, when they're older and they've turned 18 and they're going to bars downtown the first time, the same principles apply. It's fun,
they do,
but not everyone should be trusted, and without being parent, and you need to build your group and build your team and use your instincts, right? But do you want to just reply to that observation from this listener?
Yeah, and I think it is one of these more polarizing views on Halloween that, some people, and I totally understand it, cannot get past, why would we have our child go and knock on the door. And so I think, I just want to validate that feeling in the starting point. But I also think there are many opportunities where we can scaffold what it is we are doing. So it's, really having them understand this is the only day we're going to do this like this. So you are teaching them what is appropriate in the moment. So we're not actually going and knocking on every door. There is a clear indication from what I've seen within community that if there's decorations, that's our go-to moment to be able to enter. And so I think we just have to build this idea that it is one night a year and it's not something that we do on the daily. And we can front foot those conversations with our kids so they understand.
Thank you. That's Sheridan Ikatoni, who is with Parenting Place, parent coach there and presenter, and a mum of 4 herself.